What does that mean to you, Black History Month?
It means that that's racism because they don't celebrate White History Month. We don't have it. I'm part Italian. I don't have Italian History Month. So what I think it's doing is perpetuating what this divide is in our nation, quite honestly, because I don't feel like that should be highlighted. I don't think that they should be pushing their agenda on myself because I'm a straight male, I have a wife, and I have children. I don't think that I should have to be bombarded and brainwashed through media, through those months or Pride, Black History. I don't think that's something that should be, dictated to me.
Is it a learning opportunity?
Not at all, because when I was in school, we learned, certain Black leaders, things like that. I don't need to hear it every single year for a whole month.
Remember who you are.
So yesterday, I discovered the truth about the Black race. Unfortunately, to all of us less woke white folks, the Black man, he is superior. The woke Wakandans showed me all their proof. I don't know what to do. Black people really were the Romans. Black people really were the Vikings. I don't know what to say. Black people really were the Egyptians and the English and the French.
I'm the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash. And we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it all.
That's young Stephen Miller, and he's always been an asshole. He's Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor. He's also known as Trump's brain. Leaked emails show he's a white nationalist, which isn't surprising given that he's behind immigration policies like family separation and the Muslim travel ban. His emails show that in 2015 and 16, he promoted white nationalist books, websites, and conspiracies to editors at Breitbart, a far-right news site. More than 80% of the 900 plus emails reviewed focused on race or immigration, referring to the debunked conspiracy theory that non-white people are deliberately wiping white people off the planet. He referred to President Calvin Coolidge in his emails multiple times, backing his eugenics-based immigration policies once praised by Hitler. He was upset when some retailers stopped selling Confederate flags and symbols after the Charleston church shooting by white supremacist Dylan Roof, and encouraged Breitbart to create a counter-narrative. He often recommended articles from white nationalist websites like American Renaissance and Be There to highlight interracial crime. He pushed for coverage of The Camp of the Saints, a French novel loved by white nationalists for its racist depiction of non-white immigrants. He loves pushing false racist narratives so much that in 2017, as Trump's senior advisor, he reportedly blocked the release of a government study showing that refugees had a positive fiscal impact. But that's not all. He's friends with Richard Spencer, the most notorious white nationalist in the US. Spencer was a central figure to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. This guy went to high school with Miller and had a lot to say.
Stephen Miller was never bullied in high school. Stephen Miller was the bully. He bullied the kids who are already marginalized by our society, and he continues to do that from the White House today.
Friends, Grand Nation, graduates, what a distinct privilege it is to join you this morning to honor and congratulate the class of 2024. I could not think of a better day to celebrate than the day of Mother's Day. And it is on this day before Mother's Day where we recognize the many mothers who are here graduating, and of course the many mothers in the audience who are weeping with pride. We all want to simply say thank you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your...
To give this woman any more attention, because that's certainly what she wanted out of all of this. But she gave us the perfect example, a brazen confession about what we're up against in this country. I mean, first of all, the fact that you stole a phrase that black people created for themselves, then co-opted it and twisted it into something that benefits white people, that's a metaphor in itself. The video could stop right here. But whoever the we is in her video, we are tired of blah, blah, blah. Who's we? I'm going to assume it's the same people that want to take us back to a simpler time to make America great again. But what I hear when you say you want to go back to a simpler time is that you are too emotionally stunted and too intellectually lazy to deal with the complexities of a progressive future. You want to go back to a time when there was less access to information so that people couldn't fact check you when you tried to claim your opinion as fact. You want to go back to a time when there was less access to the rest of the world in general. So, when your communities were smaller, where everyone looks and thinks like you, so that it's easier for you to indoctrinate people into your belief system without them questioning it. You want to go back to a time when there wasn't an expectation on you to sit with your emotions and self-reflect and change your behavior accordingly. And if you're too lazy to do that hard work on yourself, you're certainly not going to do it for other people. You're not going to take other people's emotions into account, other people's struggles, other people's histories. It's why this movement is anti-education, anti-queer, anti-immigrant. Anything that challenges their worldview is the enemy. It's lazy and entitled, and that's exactly what you guys call black people. Interesting. It's called projection, and you could learn that with a very basic understanding of modern psychology, but you don't want to because you don't want to be assaulted with complex information. You want simple solutions to complex problems, and that doesn't exist. So what's the next best thing? Let's just go back to a time when I didn't have to deal with the problem at all. I could just set that problem to the side and pretend like I'm not part of it. It's horrifying and disgusting, and I can't even believe I have to make this video. Jesus fuck.
Hey, this message is to all the racist bigots out there who are claiming black fatigue. What's really going on is white fatigue, okay? We are sick and tired of listening to you tell stories about your Uncle Cletus McCracken. Okay, Stacy, we're sick and tired of you weaponizing your Bible, okay? Your family tree that's in the shape of a wreath, okay? Susan, we're really tired of hearing you spew gospel and Bible verses and all this other shit and turning around and delighting in the discomfort and misfortune of the people being harmed by this crime syndicate regime. Okay, we're sick and tired of you guys claiming to be patriots, but your brand of patriotism doesn't abide the Constitution. You are the antithesis of patriotic. Okay? We're sick and tired of hearing about it, John. About your black fatigue. When really what's going on is that you need to go to therapy. And you need to unpack the patriarchal, authoritarian religion that you've been indoctrinated into, and also unpack your white supremacy culture and your racism. Okay? You're a bigot and a misogynist, and we're fatigued from that. We are fatigued from hearing about the unhealed white people all over this country who aren't doing their work. And if you don't know what the work is, then you're not doing it. The work is your personal work. Your house is a fucking mess, okay? And it needs to be exorcised like an exorcism because it's full of evil shit and hatred. And you're bringing down the vibe. We're fatigued from the likes of you, Stacy. That's the fatigue. Get to work. You got a lot of fucking work to do, okay? Have a great day.
Population in South Africa is 90% black, but black people in South Africa only own 4% of privately owned land in the entire country. But somehow Trump is convinced that these 59 white South African refugees deserve to be housed and fed on the taxpayer dollar in the United States because they were being discriminated against in their home country. It makes me so fucking sick to see that in the same week that a 16-year-old girl had her face slammed into the concrete by ICE because she was brought here as a minor into the United States by her parents, that our taxpayer dollars are simultaneously being spent on an expedited refugee process for white people in South Africa, where they only make up 10% of the population, but they own 96% of the fucking land. Are you kidding me? And their justification is that they believe that white people are being genocided in South Africa. So all of a sudden they have a problem with genocide. Meanwhile, the United States is literally funding a genocide in the West Bank. And for the record, that's not even happening in South Africa. It's been disproven and debunked multiple times, and it's just Elon Musk spreading right-wing bullshit, white supremacist bullshit, as usual. That's all this is. It's just white supremacist bullshit all over again. I'm so tired.
So, starting yesterday, the U.S. is receiving its first batch of white South African nationals that have been extended the privilege of coming to the United States as refugees from South Africa. This first batch is 8,000 of these people. So the American people didn't want this, don't want this. It's crazy because when Donald Trump took office, he discontinued almost entirely the refugee program. And there were like 22,000 people from different countries seeking refugee status and in the process of receiving denial or approval for the refugee status to reside in the United States due to issues in their country, which are always based and caused by, no matter what they are, the destabilization that the United States and the West has caused at some point, some way. Donald Trump discontinued this program almost entirely and threw all of these 20-something thousand people back to their countries. You come to the United States as a refugee because you're fleeing political persecution or ethnic persecution, political blah, blah, blah. It's forms of persecution. These Afrikaners are not being racially discriminated against, but I will tell you something. And I hope this is not taken the wrong way. I worked in South Africa in 2017 and 2018 for their National Assembly. And I was able to meet some of these characters because they have a party in the parliament there called the Vryheid something First Party. It's a minority party, and their party fundamentals are based on the party is based on two fundamentals, okay? These are very racist people. The most racist shit I have ever heard in my life come out of these people's mouths. And the fundamentals of their party, their politics, is the staunch opposition to affirmative action and the staunch opposition to Black economic empowerment. These people are descendants of the colonialists from the Netherlands. They came into South Africa in 1948 and before that, really, and stole all of the land. So they make up like 13% of the population in South Africa, and they own like 95% of the land. Like literally one person will have 20 or 25,000 acres that they and their lineage stole. And they are colonialist minded to this day. They are slave mentality, like slave owning mentality. They are, they exist in South Africa, and Black people are not allowed where they live unless they have a permit for work, like a housemaid or something. And they're the cause for South Africa being one of the most unequal countries in the world, according to the World Bank, to this day. And while apartheid ended in 1990, you wouldn't know it going to South Africa by the way that the Black people, the Black South Africans, are treated versus these jackasses. And that is what they are. They are fucking ignorant, evil people. I mean, they call themselves Boers and shit like that. I'm telling you, the stuff that they say, and it's like every single one of them that I met that are... almost 200 of them in this party. I didn't work for this party. This party is just in the assembly. All are like that. Like they are like in their regular conversation are like, Black people don't have no intelligence. And this is the shit they say all the time, right? And it's why there's racial divide in South Africa like it is, because this minority still has a grip. So Donald Trump, at the behest of Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, with their insistence that these particular group of white people are facing racial discrimination because the National Assembly, the government of South Africa, has enacted a land back policy, which is technically expropriation without compensation, which you stole the land. You don't need to be compensated to have what you, one person, and they will tell you, we worked hard for this land. You didn't work fucking, this is what they believe. And it's 20,000 acres, and one person will tell you that his grandfather worked hard for the land. His grandfather came from Israel and the Netherlands and stole the land by murdering the people that had had it for generations. And these people that are coming to the United States, I do not like them. And nobody else is going to like them. They're not coming here because they are under oppression. They are coming here with a sense of entitlement and their wealth, and for a reason. But as they're being provided refugee status only as the exception to the rule, everyone else, no one gets this status ever again because the program is being discontinued. For 12 months at least, they have housing completely paid for. They have all of their food, all of their clothing, all of their amenities, cell phones and travel vouchers. In some cases, even they will be provided vehicles. Guess who pays for all of that when it comes down to the bottom sifting? U.S. taxpayer funds are who get those funds are derived from U.S. taxpayer funds. When everybody was yapping about the people that like Florida and Texas was flying to New York, the migrants last year and the year before that, and they were saying they're getting vouchers and they're getting free food and subsidies, and they weren't. Well, these 8,000 plus are going to get all of that for at least a year. And then after a year, they'll be able to change their status to permanent legal resident. And now half of the Afrikaners have an issue with coming to the United States as a refugee. But the ones that understand the agenda are the ones that are coming. And they're coming with entitlement and they're coming with wealth. And it's going to cause racial division. I'm just being straight up with you. These Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Peter Thiel do not have any fucking good, genuine interest in the well-being of anyone, much less South African white people. And I'm just telling you that Zionism is all in it. Zionism and Nazism were in South Africa at the end of apartheid in 1990, deeper than what Nazism was at the height of Nazi Germany in the 30s and 40s. And we can't forget that in 1994, 4 years after apartheid ended, in the year that the first democratic election took place, conservatives in the U.S. Congress were wearing ribbons that said "Hang Mandela." And so this is the mentality of people that are coming here. And they have existed and maintained their apartheid mentality, and all that Truth and Reconciliation was just like denazification. It was all a sham and a show. And so these people are coming here and they're going to get U.S. taxpayer funded privilege for a year. Meanwhile, we're deporting U.S. citizens. We are at the threshold of suspending the writ of habeas corpus. Due process is something that is scoffed at. There are more homeless people now than ever before, including children who are without house, without food, without electricity, without running water. But these privileged white racist MFers are coming here under the guise of a refugee so that everything is funded, but for a different agenda than what is being let on to the American people. And largely, the American people don't even know anything about this happening. But the administration is so about it that they're going to Dulles Airport with a welcoming ceremony with a flock of government officials. So this is, and the Jews are all in South Africa with the Afrikaners, training them to be snipers in an anticipation for this conflict over this land back measure that they do believe will escalate into a conflict at some point in the future. So I don't think that Americans should be welcoming to these people. I know that sounds, to some people on the surface of it, it might sound immature. And we don't want any of that racist shit here. We are dealing with our shit, but you will see when these people are here and it's attention on them that Americans, the American culture on white and black issues will make us look revolutionarily evolved compared to these backwards, knuckle-dragging white supremacists, because they are real white supremacists. They are white supremacist-minded. Currently, they are colonialist-minded. Currently, they are apartheid-minded currently, and they are slave master-minded currently. And it's going to cause fucking chaos. And that is why I believe they're being brought here.
We have some huge news right now. The Episcopal Church has officially ended its partnership with the United States government to help resettle refugees after the United States government chose to make an exception to resettle white South African residents over other refugees. In a major letter issued just minutes ago, the Episcopal Church has decided to end this nearly 4 decades old relationship between the church and the federal government, citing its moral opposition to resettling white South African residents who have been classified as refugees by Donald Trump and leaving other refugees out, like Afghan refugees. Earlier this year, the United States government really ended all refugee resettlement programs, but recently made an exception for white South African residents, and the first batch of white South African resettled refugees actually landed in America today. Well, now the Episcopal Church is saying no to the federal government. Spread the word. I'll do a full breakdown on my Substack, link to my bio, so subscribe for free and follow along for more.
So South Africa's own government is even coming out today and telling Trump, if you want to take on these refugees, that's on you. But just so you know, none of them have been properly vetted. A lot of them have been involved in protests that are pro-apartheid. And on top of that, these guys are actually claiming that they're being persecuted for being white. I don't know if you know a whole lot about South Africa, where Elon Musk is from, but the apartheid just ended not very long ago. If you don't know what that is, it was mass segregation. South Africa's government also came out and added that it's really hard to be a refugee of persecution when you're amongst the most highest earners and highly educated in the entire region. But in my personal opinion, this kind of gives me remnants of Operation Paperclip, what the US government did after World War II. They got a little over 1,500 German scientists and high-ranking officials from the military, Hitler's military, to come over to the United States so they could learn from them. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 2 + 2 = 4. What Trump's been doing here in the United States as far as deporting individuals, they've all been brown people. And now he's more than willing to bring thousands of white people claiming they've been persecuted by brown people without even fully vetting them. The answer to this simple mathematical equation is Trump wants more white people in the United States. If it ain't white, it ain't right. And that's literally Trump's mindset. You can't prove me otherwise.
Hold up. Y'all remember Lily Gaddis? This chick right here. As a matter of fact, I made a video of her almost this time last year. I'll go ahead and link it in the captions. Feel free to check it out. But essentially, she was a wannabe trad wife who seemed like she leaned a little left. That was until she dropped the N-word. And then she doubled down by creating rage bait content, seemingly pandering to the far-right Christian nationalists, I guess hoping to become the next Tommy Lauren or Candace Owen. That was until they found out that she had a mixed race child and they wanted nothing to do with her. Well, yesterday I was scrolling, as one does, and I see a panel discussion on Piers Morgan. And who do I see but Lily fucking Gaddis? And they're talking about that white lady that called that 5-year-old child the N-word. And it won't surprise you to find out that Lily Gaddis is out here supporting this lady and then doubling down saying, I use the word, it's free speech. Well, it's not actually free speech, it's hate speech. There's just not enough states that actually classify it as hate speech. But I was more surprised. I had heard that the lady had some kind of GoFundMe or whatever. This lady is almost at $1 million fucking dollars. Like, you all will support racism but won't support your family members who don't have enough money to make it from paycheck to paycheck. Make this shit make fucking sense. Like, I don't get it. How is Lily Gaddis still fucking relevant? This So
they want to define a dependent child as under 7, and this is for the SNAP program. Under the new proposed House definition for SNAP, once that child turns 7, usually someone in 2nd grade, they could no longer be considered a dependent, with one exception. You have to be married. They're also going to be raising your work requirements. But if you're married, you're exempt. Do you know how many families this is going to affect? So what this basically tells me is that all the single mothers and fathers out there that are sitting there raising their children every single day by themselves and need the actual help will not get it anymore? Please tell me when this nightmare will end.
I don't ever want to hear that Trump isn't racist, because what's happening right now is 1000% about color. He's targeting innocent Latinos and deporting them, tearing families apart, even deporting Americans. He's deported American children with cancer without their medical supplies. On top of that, he's deporting people that are actually in the legal process of becoming Americans. Meanwhile, on Monday, he is welcoming white, keyword white, South Africans into America. He's providing them housing, prepaid phones, weather appropriate clothing, groceries, house furnishings, all while also saying that Latinos are draining the economy. Are you, like, be so fucking for real. Be so fucking for real, because these are the same Latinos that work multiple jobs. When have you seen a Latino immigrant begging on the street? Oh, wait. Latino immigrants work multiple jobs, don't even qualify for the benefits that he falsely claims that they are abusing. Babe, they can't even get these benefits. They will sell you flowers, wash your car, wash your house, wash the dishes. They do everything. They don't qualify for these benefits. You think if they qualified for these benefits that they would have all these multiple jobs, babe? Oh my God, like, at this point, I just don't want to hear it. I feel like there's so many people that I know personally that have been gaslighting me, constantly saying, oh, Trump he's not racist, he loves Latinos. Then make it make sense. Make it make sense. And then the ACLU has already reported there has been so many U.S. citizens that have been arrested and detained because they have been racially profiled. Yeah, for the color of their skin and for speaking Spanish. So please, I don't want to fucking hear it. It is about race. It is about color. If you're black and brown in America, you are targeted. And right now they're trying to get rid of habeas corpus, which is going to eliminate your right to resist arrest. So, yeah. For all the Latinos that voted for Trump, babe, it's you or me next at the end of the day. Like, this is about color. This is about preserving whiteness. This has always been that. And, you know, I don't think that we are at a point to, like, blame the Latinos that voted for Trump anymore. I think it's just wake up. Like, there's literally nothing that he's doing that's going to benefit you. Nothing. And I don't think that you need to wait for it to, like, personally affect you for you to wake up. I really beg and implore you to do your own research and just wake up. This isn't right. This is so sad.
This is for the Americans. If you're not an American, feel free to watch, but please try and get it to the Americans. My name is Bianca van Wyk, born in South Africa, live in South Africa. Today you will be welcoming the so-called white Afrikaans refugees. They are there based on an offer made to them, which I must say was informed by disinformation about South Africa. Now, I've seen a lot of takes on who Americans think they are receiving. Okay, you are not getting successful, professional, white, middle class South Africans that are fleeing South Africa. The people you are getting are the people that believe that there is discrimination against them based on their race. Keep in mind, we live in the most unequal country in the world. We have, for instance, 70% of agricultural land and agricultural holdings are owned by white South Africans. 62 to 68% of top leadership positions in corporate are filled by white males. There is a huge salary disparity between white South Africans and the rest of the population. And there are a number of other indicators which shows you that this story of discrimination based on race is false. Another thing that I wanted to say is that you will get certain so-called refugees that have experienced crime. However, in South Africa, no one is exempt. These people that you are welcoming assume because they're white, they should not experience crime. The people most affected by crime in South Africa happen to be black people that live in poverty. So as you open your doors and welcome people, and you're going to get a lot of information and disinformation from these people, please do keep that in mind. Oh, I also would like to say all the best and good luck to the Americans.
So another question that I get as an ex-Trump supporter, ex-conservative, is, Danny, what made you change? And I wish I could say that there was this burning bush moment or this aha moment, but in reality, it was a culmination of things, seeds that were planted, and then finally it just clicked. I would need to write a whole book to explain my life's journey, but for the sake of time in this video, I'll do a quick synopsis. So I went from college to professional baseball to 10 years in the Florida Department of Corrections. And while in prison, I met a man by the name of Rashawn Clark. Rashawn was 16 when he was sentenced to prison for 20 years. I, on the other hand, had been to prison, home, back to prison for a total of 14 felonies and a total sentence of 10 years. Now, Rashawn was a black Muslim and I was a white Christian conservative. And this was at the height of the Black Lives Matters movement and when Trump was campaigning for president. And in typical conservative fashion, I would run around telling all the black guys in prison that Trump would be the best thing for them, that Trump is the best thing for the black community. And I would be met with resistance. Trump doesn't care about us. Trump does not care about the black community. He's a self-serving billionaire who cares about no one but himself. And I would tell Rashawn that we can't blame anybody but ourselves for why we are in prison. These are the consequences to our actions. Stop being the victim and accept accountability for our choices. And what Rashawn said next was probably the first seed that was planted that ultimately started me on this journey. He said, when you got sentenced to prison, the judge looked at you as the all-American boy who just lost his way, needed some mental health and substance abuse help, but they seen you as being redeemable. He said, I, on the other hand, at the age of 16, was sentenced to 20 years. They looked at me as a thug, a savage, a predator, and my life was not worthy of redemption. In spite of the Department of Justice, Juvenile Justice, recommending that he get a program, they sentenced him to 20 years in prison instead as a juvenile. And Rashawn would always say to me, DC, you underestimate me. And he was right. Because in my arrogance, I looked at myself as the smartest person in the room. I'm in prison, I'm college educated. Most of these people in here don't even have a GED. So Rashawn recommended that I read Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. And after I read it, a light bulb went off, my life was forever changed, and that's what started me on this movement. And this is what I learned, and I saw it with my own two eyes. So in the United States of America, the 13th Amendment said the abolishment of slavery except when punishment for a crime. Before this time period, the only people that went to prison were white vagabonds, outcasts, poor white people. But slave labor was such an integral part of the Southern economy that without it, the economy would collapse. So they needed new slave labor. That's why they started the mass incarceration prison boom. Fast forward 100 years, you had Jim Crow segregation, where black people were relegated to second-class citizenship. They were still seen as subhuman. Black Americans faced disenfranchisement from voting. They had to pay a poll tax. They had to pass literacy exams, but nobody wanted to educate them. And they were robbed of their generational wealth. Black Americans also faced barriers to education, to employment, and to housing. They could literally be discriminated against based on their skin color, based on their race. Then we passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, 1965 Voting Rights Act, which says we can no longer discriminate based on skin color or based on race. So in 2024, what's the only group of people that we can still legally discriminate against? That we can deny housing, that we can deny jobs, that we can deny access to education? If you answered correctly, it's convicted felons. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that 1 in 3 black males carry a convicted felon label? 1 in 6 Latino males and 1 in 17 white males. So either I think it's a coincidence or I think black people are inherently evil with the proclivity to commit crime. And I couldn't go for that. So I did more research and I found out that Nixon and Reagan created the war on drugs. I see that we created the school to prison pipeline. We defunded education while militarizing the police, which patrols predominantly the black community. Then we coined terms like super predator and black on black crime. And once again, right here in the United States of America, we were spinning a narrative that made Black Americans seem subhuman. And in my humble opinion, our criminal justice system is the epicenter of systemic racism in the US. It's because it's where we can just label somebody a criminal and justify our inhumanity towards that person. And as Rashawn said, there's a two-tiered justice system in America, and we're seeing it now more than ever. One for wealthy white billionaires like Trump, who can walk the streets with 34 felony convictions, while being liable for an essay of E. Jean Carroll. And then there's one for people like Rashawn, who spent 20 years of his life behind that fence. But it's impossible to get to this level of understanding without actually putting in the work. And this is why I encourage so many white Americans to actually just do the work. This country is not going backwards. We are not going back. It's only forward from here.
Sound the alarm. Trump just flew in 59 white South African refugees because apparently being a white minority now counts as persecution. These are white South Africans, descendants of colonizers, flown into Dulles on a U.S. chartered flight. Trump says they're victims of genocide, but South Africa and international watchdogs say that's false. Meanwhile, nearly 14,000 Afghans, many who helped the U.S. military, just had their asylum revoked. They're being deported to face death. And it's not just Afghans. Palestinians are being bombed with U.S.-funded weapons, not even eligible for refugee status. Mexican and South American families are being deported without hearings. Brown people are being targeted, discarded, and denied because of race. The Episcopal Church pulled out of the program, saying refugee aid should be based on need, not whiteness. A government that flies in whiteness and flies out everyone else isn't doing immigration. It's running a protection program for white supremacy. I'll be following this story closely as it unfolds, so stick around. And for more details and full breakdowns about this story, subscribe to my free Substack. Link is
Many white people in America know nothing about foreign countries unless it relates to the US. And this is especially true for countries in Latin America and Africa. Pretty much anywhere outside of Europe, a lot of Americans know nothing about it. I've heard some genuinely crazy things, either in my comment section or in real life, about how colonization isn't real. It's a myth to make white Americans or white people in general feel guilty about their past. Or white people who genuinely think that Africa is just like one continent. There aren't different tribes and everyone lives in a hut there. No one has access to clean food or water, and disease is rampant in every single place. Especially in Latin America, with the influx of immigrants that we've been getting recently, a lot of white Americans genuinely think that they are bringing crime and that every person who is in Latin America is part of a gang, which obviously is not true. But because of that, it is so unbelievably important to create educational content for people who believe these things, because the stigma around coming from Latin America or Africa or all those things are going to make white people more afraid and more hateful and more likely to commit crimes against these people.
White people attempting to rebrand white rage by co-opting the term black fatigue as though it's a phenomenon they actually experience but only recently found the language to talk about is both dystopianly weird and tragically on brand. The copying, the whitewashing, the centering themselves by playing victim. But what's ironically telling about it is that the concept of racial battle fatigue is not new. It's been around for decades, and the term black fatigue has been used by black people for quite a while. Mary Frances Winters wrote a book that came out in 2020 titled Black Fatigue, and it describes the mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion that black people experience because of systemic racism. Now, notice how black people didn't call that white fatigue, because the purpose is not to assign blame in order to justify bad behavior. It is called black fatigue because it is a harm that black people experience, and so their focus is on addressing and combating that harm. Whereas when white people talk about experiencing black fatigue, they are not talking about a harm that they experience because of black people or anybody else. They are literally telling on their own inability to live in society with black people. And that's not new either. That's a pathology that has existed for hundreds of years, but call it what it is, white rage.
Yeah, white fatigue is not fucking real. Of course it's not fucking real. Are you kidding me?
White fatigue is what very clearly racist white people will try to hide behind because they're tired of having to tiptoe around certain people in certain settings because they don't know how to tell what they are and are not allowed to say anymore. And they hate the concept of not being allowed to say something. My parents will never shut the fuck up about this. It's harder for racist white people these days to tell what they can and cannot say in certain settings, and they don't know if they're going to face consequences or not. So they are fatigued of trying to figure that out. They are tired of trying to censor themselves and trying to figure out when they do and do not have to. That's the only thing that they're tired of. They're tired of being called out for their racism. That is literally it.
You know, listen to these white people talk about black fatigue makes me really just want to punch them in the face. Like, you want to talk about fatigue? Let's talk about white fatigue. Let's talk about the fact that white people have killed more people on this planet than any other group of people in history. That's a fact. White people have killed more people for no other reason than the fact that the people that they were killing weren't white than any other group of people on this planet. You want to talk about fatigue? Let's talk about white fatigue. Let's talk about the fact that 1% of the population owns half of the wealth in the world, and most of them are white. Well, that's a coincidence. Let's talk about the fact that here in America, white people have ran this fucking place since the 1700s, and they have fucked up everything. Everything. The entire planet's fucking climate is going to shit to the point to where we are going to unalive ourselves as a species because of fucking white people. You want to talk about fatigue? I'm white, and I'm fucking tired of white people.
We have some breaking news right now. A 30-year-old Atlanta woman is literally being used as an incubator to have a baby because of Georgia's heartbeat law. Her family has no say in the matter because of the law. She has been brain dead for several months. Adriana Smith was a registered nurse at Emory's Hospital. In February, she was 9 weeks pregnant when she had several bad headaches. After being discharged in the hospital, she was then sent back the next day, ended up with a blood clot in her brain. There was nothing doctors can do according to local KKTV reporting, and she was declared brain dead. 3 months later, she is still being held alive on a ventilator. Why? Because she was pregnant, 9 weeks at the time. And her family is now speaking out, saying that they had no choice in the matter because of Georgia's heartbeat abortion law, which prohibits abortions after 6 weeks. Her mother told KKTV, quote, "It's torture for me. I come here and I see my daughter breathing on a ventilator, but she's not there. The baby's health is uncertain, but the issue here is that the family had no say. The family couldn't do anything." Spread the word so more people hear about this story. I'll do a full breakdown on my Substack shortly, linked to my bio, so subscribe for free and follow along for all the news you need to know about.